Politics. It's a mug's game. The constant red tape, the pandering to specific nations to keep trade agreements in place, the endless bickering. It's enough to make you want to cash it all in and go live in the woods. But even then, the woods are probably earmarked for clearing to build a new parking lot for the local MP's mistress's third summer home. Now, I don't even want to speculate on current political events, because A, it would instantly date this video and I'm all about forward planning, and B, because if I did, we'd all be here for ages disagreeing amongst ourselves about why cocaine should be on the NHS dispensary list. You're welcome. Anyway, gaming, politicians, the mix can never be good. And this list is here to show us the downright worst of these backbencher bastards. With this in mind, I'm Jules, your MP for the Southwest, and this is the 10 worst politicians in video games. Number 10. Citadel Council Mass Effect. On the outset, being headed up by an Asari, a Solarian, and a Turian, Mass Effect's Citadel Council looks like a rainbow collective of pretty much every species in the galaxy, and is founded on utopian ideals of cooperation. But you might notice that a particular stinky, hairy, ape-like species is missing. No, not the moon keys of the banana bulge black hole, but humans. That all changes when Humie Shepard becomes useful to them and is sent out to do their dirty work and take out a former Spectre agent, which if the people knew about would be a PR nightmare. The Council are so incompetent in addressing the threat of this issue, and are completely found with their pants down when the Citadel is assaulted. Add to this the open disdain for humanity and the fact that they have a lot more hidden than meets the eye, and you're left with a group of aliens so intent on keeping peace that they would deny anything that threatened their self-contained space bubble. And I mean, did anyone actually choose to save them in Mass Effect 1? I thought not. Number 9. President John Henry Eden, Fallout 3. You'll hear this guy on the radio throughout Fallout 3 declaring in a smooth as butter Roosevelt style that his Enclave faction will make America grow again. And to do that, he wants the Brotherhood of Steel dead. Needless to say, he comes across as a smidge evil. The weird thing is, though, is that Eden isn't like most politicians. He doesn't have a ton of dirty little secrets or corrupt expense claims to his name, but instead, he has one massive secret, which is kind of crazy. He's actually an advanced AI machine who holds extensive knowledge of past presidents and uses that as the basis for his charming personality. Now, I mean, for those who've played a Fallout game, this doesn't seem too bad. In fact, robots can be super friendly and actual pals. But Eden's got a bit too much patriotism in his power supply, as he wants to kill everyone who doesn't agree with him by poisoning the water of the wasteland. I mean, you can't deny he's a politician who actually does something, but at the same time, this probably isn't the best way to appeal to the public. Number 8. Brian Irons, Resident Evil 2. This son of a bitch is lower down on the political food chain by being just a police chief for Raccoon City, but Brian Irons is no less corrupt. Cutting a deal with the cartoonishly villainous corporation Umbrella, he knowingly lets them perform dangerous biological experiments in the city in return for a bizarrely large amount of art. Hunt around and you'll find multiple documents that showcase the sadistic streak of this political boozehound. He's got a short fuse, positively revels in the look of a man's face after he's just shot him, and gets a kick out of pointing a gun at people as a display of power. And then we get to the weirdest part. He abducts the mayor's daughter when the T-virus outbreak hits and decides to remove her organs to make a taxidermy display out of her. Okay, that doesn't seem to follow any form of logic. Needless to say, he's as far gone off the range as you can get, and thankfully he's removed from office in a pretty definitive fashion. Number 7. Jonathan Irons, Call of Duty Advanced Warfare. I mean, have you seen Kevin Spacey? The man looks like he was hatched in an evil lair by the maddest of scientists with the sole purpose of being terrifying and talented in equal measure. In the game, Irons throws about more money than a strip club charity fundraiser in a hurricane. All of it with the sole purpose of building the best and totally not at all evil private military company. It takes some gall to announce that you're going to war with another nation. It takes even more to do it in front of the world's representatives with a weapon that's able to target specific ethnic groups. And while his UN speech does raise some legit real-world issues like the current war on terror being ineffective and the outsourcing of military issues to PMCs like his, you can't say that literally holding the world to ransom won't hurt his public opinion. Jonathan Irons. A vote for me is a mandatory one. Number 6. George Sears, Metal Gear Solid 2, Sons of Liberty. Don't you hate it when the 43rd President of the United States turns out to be a total psychopath? Once upon a time, this test tube baby and son of Metal Gear's big boss was committed to freeing the world from the stranglehold of deadly organization the Patriots. Hell, he even set up an anti-terrorist unit beautifully titled Dead Cell, but power tends to go to the head. Once the Patriots removed him as head of state and whacked his name on a kill list, the once well-balanced Sears goes rogue, teaming up with Russian mercenaries and creating his very own terrorist group, as you do. And like all brutal terrorist groups, it masked intent with talks of freedom, calling itself the Sons of Liberty. Under the name Solid as Snake, Sears began orchestrating the attack on the Big Shell, kidnapping Patriot payroll President James Johnson in the process as part of a wider plan to turn Manhattan into a free republic through use of peaceful and democratic use of nuclear weapons. Only it turns out that the Patriots were manipulating everything behind the scenes. Those f***ing So actually, I'm not entirely sure if it's SEARS or the Patriots who should be at this entry. Either way, there's a lot of confusing, and some would say pretentious, political maneuvering going on. Number 5. JOCK, CRANLEY, and Sue Murray. When it comes to satirical political commentary, GTA 5's candidates for governor, JOCK, CRANLEY, and Sue Murray are note perfect. When it comes to actual policies, these authoritarians are both as crazy as each other. The beauty lies in the fact that each character is the extreme caricature of how the other side sees their rivals. Republican CRANLEY's a tax-cutting NRA nutjob, and Democrat Murray is a patronizing state-solves-all liberal who plans to tax San Andreas into oblivion. But while Murray is the personification of an out-of-touch metropolitan liberal elite, most of GTA's ire is directed at the immigrant-hating CRANLEY. He's even got a side story about murdering his wife whose ghost haunts the site where he threw her off a cliff, which is creepy for sure, but not as bad as some of his actual policies. Number 4. Elizabeth Winter's Vanquish. America versus Russia. It's a tale as old as time, with the will they won't they of nuclear war having been the Ross and Rachel storyline of the mid-80s. Vanquish seems to pick up on this well-weathered romance of two nations itching to touch their big red buttons, as it shows a Russian terrorist group take over a space station and turn it into a massive solar cannon which obliterates San Francisco. But stepping up to the plate to stop this is Sam Gideon, an all-armored, all-American man-machine who treats diplomatic talks like cigarettes and then he chucks them away, usually followed by a hail of explosives. But behind grindy Gideon is Elizabeth Winters, President of the United States, who has decreed that this space station must be retaken. Now, you'd be forgiven for thinking that she's a minor player in Sam's game of bullet chess, but it turns out that she's actually working with the Russian terrorists in order to manipulate the world into turning against Russia and then using the station to obliterate Moscow and steal their resources. It's a bold move to say the least, and one that backfires incredibly when not only does the terrorist group welch on their deal, but then Sam destroys the station and now everyone knows about her power play. With the news spread, she takes the shooty way out and puts a bullet in her brain. Number 3. BISON, Street Fighter 2. You know you've probably turned evil when your nickname is literally the Dictator. BISON is one of the most iconic villains in video game history, being equal parts demented crime lord director and cape and hat fashionista. Using his totalitarian New World Order group, he's wrought terror across the globe and clearly has had some success, judging by the amount of money he seems to throw at all of these insane projects. He's not the most direct of political leaders though, hosting a fighting tournament to find strong people to join his group or become his next body, which doesn't seem like the easiest way to go about things. I mean, has he heard of Craigslist? He's definitely not a man to be messed with though, as he's died and been resurrected several times, growing more and more insane with each iteration. Number 2. Premier CHERDENKO, Command & Conquer Red Alert 3. Talk about political maneuvering. Okay, so CHERDENKO was just once a senior member of the Soviet army, but unhappy with his role, he had a time machine built so he could go back, kill Albert Einstein so he could defeat the Allies' war efforts and put himself as premier of the Soviet Union. And that's to say nothing of the fact that yes, this is Tim Curry, and yes, this is Tim Curry with a Russian accent saying the word space, which should instantly make him the greatest politician ever. But his time travel shenanigans had a few setbacks. Basically, with no Einstein, that meant that there were no nukes, meaning that when CHERDENKO needed to use them to stop Japan from invading the USSR, with their technologically advanced army, they found themselves defenseless. He had a great start, but zero sustainability. And number 1, it's my boy, Andrew Ryan from BIOSHOCK. What is it about utopias that always seem to make them turn into dystopias? The underwater city of Rapture on paper should have been the be-all and end-all when it came to ultimate societies. But then when you've got it headed by a figure like Andrew Ryan, then you can pretty much see the leaks a mile off. What began as a place without restrictions soon became the most regulated and tyrannical places to live, with Ryan failing to see that each little action, like allowing plasmids to rewrite the genetics of the populace, or jailing those who don't believe in his ideals, or, you know, using pheromones to control people, that things might not go very well in the end. The worst thing about Ryan is that he comes to encompass all the things his idealistic free society tries to escape. The Great Chain becomes his religion. His demand to make people pay for air becomes the government taxation and control. He's too far gone when you meet him late in the game and is in no frame of mind to want to be saved. Rapture is dying, and when you arrive, the concept of it dies with him. But don't let any modicum of sadness hit you, because he was an awful, awful man. So good riddance to bad Ryans, and a big cheer for Jack for removing him from office. You are so very welcome. And that's our list. Got any more politicians who took the piss? Well, let me know about them in the comments section below. And why not swing by whatculture.com for more news and daily articles every goddamn day. As always, I've been Jules. You can follow me here on Twitter at RetroJ with a 0, and I will speak to you